I'm Alexandra Kreis, and you're listening to How to Travel in a Journey. Hello and welcome back to How to Travel in a Journey. I'm here today with Joe Saflund. Hello. Hello, Joe. How are you doing?
Hello, Alex. Hello.
Hi. I wanted to introduce Joe as an artist, but in our preparation conversation in what I can call him, he decided he doesn't know what to be called. And in fact, I feel like, Joe, you are unique in yourself, in the way you live your life, almost like a life artist, I would say. You know, there are so many talents you have and curiosity you have, and whatever makes you curious, you know, it seems to pick your attention. That's how I know you. Is that somehow right?
Uh, yes, it certainly is. I'm very curious about a lot of things. It might be even wrong to say that I'm curious about a lot of things. I'm curious, full stop, which could get me into trouble and has done, and hopefully will continue to do so.
Well, the beauty of you, and you know, the reason why I wanted to have you on the show, because to me, the way you live your life is an inspiration in some ways, that it requires a lot of strength, I believe, you know, inner strength to be and not to be in some form, you know, not to be called something in particular and not to follow a career plan. And while we had a beautiful conversation before we started recording, I also noticed how this being that you created is helping you to really become, you know, that's what I'm feeling. And that's a lot of big words that I use there, but maybe they are reflecting back into our conversation earlier.
Yes, that's right. And looking at it a little bit from the outside now, and if I'm to see how you describe me from an external point of view and look at it, it's like, here's a person who is of a particular age, like past middle age, and you know, they have done some things, but a career hasn't really happened.
Yeah.
They're not without talent. They're not without drive and focused to be able to do things, but it just hasn't happened. And then people would see this person. Successful people might see this person and point a finger, if they were interested in doing so, and say, well, all that potential has gone to waste. But, and maybe in that context it has, but if you come in to this person, if you come in to hear that there is, of course there are questions about that. Oh, I could have done this, could have done that. But at the heart of it, in the middle of it, has always been an inquiry. And at the present time, there's that inquiry has almost dissipated. It's gone. So we're just here having a chat, and
Exactly.
And there are so many things still to be done, of course, and they're fun and enjoyable, and exciting. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at now.
Yeah, I totally hear you. The whole career thing is locks for a lot of people in the talent thing, but we kind of both are looking to inspire people to do what they are called to be doing. That's the where we're both at. That's what we established beforehand. You said, you know, to stop people to procrastinate and find into what we both call potential or dharma. So yeah.
That's very interesting. A few weeks ago, I met a young man. I was doing and this is kind of symptomatic a little bit of the whole situation.
Yeah.
I went over to clip somebody's hedge
Yeah.
because they asked me to come and do odd jobs around their house. So I go and do that, and we chat a bit about things, and this was the boyfriend of the son, and we were having a cup of tea, and he was asking me for advice. He was asking me for life advice about what to do with his life, essentially, and I'd never met this chap before, and the thing that struck me about it was that here was a fellow, tall, gifted chap, maybe mid-30s, and he was apprehensive and fearful about the things he felt he had to do to make it. He had to have an identity for himself. He had to project himself in a particular way, and he saw lots of his peers around the place who were really good at this, who just put themselves out there as some fantastic demigod. And he was not feeling that. He was feeling, I don't know, that it was something that didn't sit well with him. So I essentially said to him, well, that you've got to find your way, your own way. And it's very important that you know, first of all, that you are amazing, even though it might not be expressing in a particular way right now. You are wonderful. So you just need to spend some time and settle into what it is you would like to do. That could be something, it could be nothing, or it could be a very menial thing, or it could be something that is seen as being more ambitious. It doesn't really matter unless you begin to address that held position and begin to disassemble it and let it settle into the belly. And I didn't think much about that at all. It's like, all right, see you next time, and cut some more hedges. But then I heard from the lady whose hedge I'd cut that was the best advice this fellow had ever gotten in his life. And he's 36 from this very little small conversation. Yeah. So maybe that's our work. Maybe that's our work. And for someone like me, I can go and cut hedges. I can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, teach some yoga classes, sell a painting.
Yeah.
But why I'm here is to see people and to see them.
Yeah.
Really see them.
Yeah, I feel the same. It's so easy for me to see people, and while somebody with, listening to this story and the podcast right now thinking like, yeah, but you can't tell young people or whoever just don't do anything. I think the distinction for the two of us, or how I would hear it when you say it, is when you arrive in your belly, if you let it disensemble the whole, like, oh, I need to define what I'm doing into a character that everybody is, or has heard about, that can be difficult if you're falling into a totally different niche or whatever it is. But if it comes from the belly, it's never this kind of thing of just hanging around and doing nothing, because I think we're all inspired and feel inspired by life, and not by not doing anything constantly. It's the reversed opposite. Some people feel like they need to do. Other people feel like, oh, now I can't do. Apathy almost. We're not talking about apathy here. I think
Not
that's
at
what we're
all.
trying
No.
to say to people. But you have to feel more free in choosing what you want to do and be more aware of that. Does that hit home with you?
Yes. Yeah. And to tell anybody that doing nothing is the best thing you can do is not right. It's not right at all. Because in order to do nothing, there needs to be an embodiment of great openness and emptiness and clarity to really be doing nothing. Otherwise, you're just dossing.
Yeah.
And who was it? Chogyam Trungpa. He was a Tibetan teacher who went to America, and I think one of his quotes goes a bit like this. It's like, best is to do nothing, but if you have to do something, do it really, really well.
Yeah.
So
So that brings me to a question I have for you. You know, what really led you to these insights? How did you arrive there, Joe, to feel so comfortable, or maybe sometimes not so comfortable in your, you know, adaptation to life and how you lead your life?
Well, that's. I was going to say I don't know, but that would be a cop out because I actually kind of have begun to sense why it is that I've been able to stay so long, and kind of, even though it looks like one has been stationary or given up or dropped off the planet, I'm very tenacious.
Mm.
I'm able to sit still or to plow through things, and I have, I guess, a high tolerance for discomfort or pain, but at the same time I'm not stupid enough, or maybe I used to be, but I'm not stupid enough to keep plowing through the pain when it really is doing damage. It's like, hang on a second. So, and I've gotten myself into various situations through my curiosity that haven't begun well.
Yeah.
And points have been reached where there's kind of a crisis, and then something has to be done.
Yeah.
So I would have taken myself to places that I felt were nurturing in times of crisis with relationships and things like that.
Mm.
And in yoga terms, I would have tried for a while to follow certain hatha yoga practices, and taken it to a level where I understand that my physical body isn't able. It's just not able to go to these unbelievably bendy. I mean, I'm strong as an ox. I could do something all day, but then the other thing, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And in terms of the hatha yoga being an avenue to open, to deconstruct, and to realize the self, it just wasn't for me personally. But that's what we were talking a bit about before, that if something comes naturally, not without a certain struggle and a certain process and learning and letting go, but if someone in the hatha yoga context, just to keep it there, is humble enough, bendy enough, strong enough, and has the capacity to keep at it, maybe that is their avenue, and they will find, or whatever is coming will come to them through that.
Yeah.
But it's like in the Bhagavad Gita, there's all these different yogas, you know, and all of us have to find our own.
Exactly. There is different yogas that we're not so aware of in this world, you know, like that. I think this is the conundrum we both kind of came across in procrastination to do what you feel called to do, and procrastination showing up as apathy or as somebody who likes to negotiate back and forth and is very smart in asserting a situation, but then never comes to do the essential thing to move forward. And then secondly, that we all have a calling, what we're here for, and it does not need to come by doing a hatha yoga practice, you know, to establish that, but that there is so many forms and that so many texts talk about it, and you don't need to make it a school, but that the moment you've gone through some teaching, you find that you don't need a school or a thought of that. Yeah. Hey, and we have a guest coming in as well, or not.
This is Alex. Do you need me for something? Are you okay? Oh, he's off. Sorry about that.
Beautiful to see him. Okay, so I was doing a long-winded thing, as I tend to do, but I was saying, like, what I hear you saying is that we both come out of the schools of hatha yoga, and both have ended up taking our lessons from it, but obviously both decided to go a little bit further with different tools. And that's the one thing, you know, and that we're both finding that it's easier to live and just try instead of trying to figure out whether we're following the right teacher or the right method, but just trying out. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah. And there, I think teaching, I feel it's very important to have a teacher of some kind. And for me now, I don't think about it too much, but I would say to people that everything should be a teacher. You know, if you spend a little bit of time with whatever is going on, either if you're in a situation, a personal situation, if you just sit down and have a cup of tea and just stay with that for a moment, you'll see how you're feeling. You can tell what you can feel what your body is telling you, whether you know, simple things like tightness in the belly or in the chest, but so that in itself is an indication that you need to somehow let go and relax. But not everyone maybe will know that. Not everyone will know that what you need to do is sit down and have a cup of tea. And not everyone is going to take that advice, because people don't want to be told what to do. Or so it's a complicated one, that teaching or having a teacher. And some people have their guru somewhere, or they have a number of teachers that they've been going to, or books that they read, and there the teachings might be very specific, and some of them might resonate with the people, and then they might pick and choose. So it's not very clear to me, all that, though, that having a teacher. But if you do have a teacher, whoever they are and wherever they are, even if they're good or bad, you've got to be able to practice loving them.
Yeah.
It's like being in a relationship with someone who's not particularly nice, but you love them. Or you really try to love them, and then you realize, I'm really trying to love you, but I don't actually love you. So then there's no love there. Then there is no love. Then maybe, is it that I can't feel love? Or is it that I don't have access to it? Am I selective in my loving? And, you know, so it raises a lot of interesting self-assessing points. It's like, right, okay.
It's the relationship. You have to acknowledge, I think, in the spiritual world, or as we are, you know, often talking to, this is set out to make people aware of that we, as much as we do outside, we need to also draw inside, or to draw from within inside. But at the end of the day, when you come into this inside, you cannot stick to just the inside observation. Then you come across as probably depressed, or an introvert, or as somebody who has no whatever interest in the world outside. And when you just on the outside, you seem like an average Joe, excuse the pun, that is just spending and passing time in this world without acknowledging the beauty that surrounds us. And in the connection that you're describing, the first way you learn it is from parent to child, or child to parent. You know, this is your first connection. And what you're saying to me right there, if you haven't learned the right connection, or this assertment of inner journeying and outer seeing, then you need a teacher in life, and that can be a human being. But if you do, you have to find that acknowledgement that there is a relationship between the two of you, and hating is just another extreme emotion. It's the other end of the stick from love, to me, you know. So there is the bond already there. So yeah. I think that's how I see teachers, and that's why I heard you saying that we can even have teachers like cats, pets. I don't know, the morning coffee or a cup or whatever it is. Everything can become our teacher as more as we come into this duality and assessing duality without losing the connection to the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I heard you saying. Or that's what's triggered in me.
Oh, yes. Well, life, as far as I can perceive it, is all about breathing. I mean, it's how we live. It's about in and out, expansion, contraction, inspiration, letting go of things, renewing, and so on. The seasons. It's all there in this cyclical situation. But I guess throughout my life, I've always been interested in and wanting to find out about the gap between the breaths. And that's been my tenacity. That's been that quiet digging. Sometimes it's expressed, sometimes it hasn't. So the expression would obviously be an expansion, and then the contraction, seemingly when either one in a physical sense possibly looks depressed, is depressed, but the depression becomes almost a cocooning. It's not something that is completely a black hole where you're thinking about ending everything. It's there is, it needs to be realized that even if people are depressed, that there is a spark. You might not see it. Others might have to point it out. Stay close to those kinds of people if you can, or if you are depressed, stay close to something. It might not be a person, it might be a cup of tea, it could be a dog. And yeah.
As you're rubbing the hands, it reminds me of that friction that we then need to encounter in order for the spark to become bigger. As you said in one of the conversations we had before, that you just ran into some of those sparks while you were landing in a different country. Can you tell us a little bit about how you dealt with that?
Well, essentially, I sat still and sometimes stopped breathing. Wow. And you realize that if you stop breathing for long enough, that you need to breathe.
Yeah.
If you want to stay on this planet as a human being, having this wonderful body that we drive around in. So coming to a new country, having been here for 6 or 7 years now.
You're in Sydney, Australia, is that right?
Yes, yeah. in Sydney, and my son was born here, so he's Australian. I've become a citizen of this country all of a sudden. So there's this whole new ball game happening, but that's really neither here nor there. You can be Australian or Swedish or Irish or German or any of these things. And then that ties into race and creed and all the rest of it. But you've got to find out, each of us, I feel, has to find out, really tenaciously dig for who or what am I. That is really key. And then you can go forth and you can be an artist, you can be a fashion designer, you can be none of those things. It's like we were saying earlier, Alex, that, lots of people we see around us are passionate, they're excited about what they do. Yeah. They happen to be really beautiful, they happen to be eloquent, and they happen to have great dress sense. But what about me? If I don't have these, it's like, oh man. It's like
what to do? Yes.
What to do if you're dowdy and you kind of, or if you feel that you're dowdy, because of course dowdy people, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. You just, we find our spark.
Yeah.
Have a laugh.
Yeah. And sometimes that's also okay. So we can be in these, obviously, in these kind of ball games of gifts. I mean, I see you as a talented artist. Whatever you touch turns into something beautiful. You did my yoga studio up, and you created this whole space which I only vaguely expressed how I wanted. And we had the same idea, and then you're selling paintings, and next thing you're cutting hedges, and whatever you touch, it seems like you do it from the tenacity, but also from the curiosity. And while you have so many gifts, it's like none of them comes true as such a passion, like somebody who wants to turn the world upside down or want to wrap up buildings, like in pompons and I don't know what. But what we're trying to say here together on this show for everybody is, if you don't feel there is a passion in your life, it doesn't matter, because you can be just the bee that enjoys going from one flower to the next. And the difference between you not having an aim or so, or a certain career or label to your life that says, like, you're a father, you're a mother, you're I don't know, a teacher, you're this or that, it does not matter. What matters, and what keeps Joe as radiant as he is and lovely to speak to and being such a light in this world to me, is that you are actually just following what you want to do, and never doubt that it kind of contributes to your life as much as to other people's lives. Is that what we're trying to say here, Joe, right?
That's exactly what we're trying to say, Alex. It's yeah, doubt, ideally get rid of it. However you can do that, quickly or slowly, that depends on how you're practicing. But yeah, just find out how beautiful you are. Find out how wonderful and absolutely complete you
Yes.
are.
Yeah. Despite your looks, or with your looks even. So we
Yes.
we
Yeah.
all this is such a deceiving moment, that when we look at people and they're beautifully dressed, or they seem to be so much in their skin, that we believe their lives is easier than ours, and that we have to come up with smugness, smartness, or something, that kind of makes us better. You see that between children, like, I have this, like, I have this Puma shirt, and now, I'm better than you are. This is such a misguided way to lead our lives, and we need so much time to undo it, what we learn in these phases of
For sure.
what makes us, right?
Yes, and I wonder where the kids actually get that from, because I don't think they're born with it.
They're not born with it, no.
No, no.
Yeah, that's it. They're not born, so there you go. We have to put ourselves forward again and see what we've kind of put into their brains, and we can't do that
Yes.
until we do our own inner journeying and our own soul searching. That's what it is, right? Yeah, what makes us
So
us.
right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking time, Joe. It was so lovely to connect with you.
Well, my pleasure, Alex, to do this, and it's wonderful to see you again. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
and
to all the people listening. And
exactly.
um,
Where can
I don't
the
know.
listener find you if they're in Sydney and feel inspired to get in touch and
Um,
see you
well,
as you?
they can give me a phone call, or send an email, or something. I have a website with some of my art on it, but I don't update it all that often. But I can. How do I do that? Give you an email?
We will have all the links underneath the podcast description, so you can connect with Joe. And Joe is also teaching a little bit of yoga. So if you're in Sydney and feel inspired to seek him out, we also put the name of the studio forward, I would say. Well, thanks
Fantastic.
everybody, including Joe and listeners. And I'll see you next time around.